let's talk about love and marriage in the noble classes. So in the noble classes in the Middle Ages, you had to have 7 degrees of separation between you and the person that you married. And the reason for that was because the church did not want you aligning your family too closely with other families that could basically threaten their authority. So they required very detailed genealogies. They required that you prove that you had a certain amount of separation between you and the person that you were about to marry. Well, that meant that there were very few choices for marriage partners because there were fewer people in the world. And there were also fewer people of the noble class because it was not acceptable to marry someone who was in the non-noble class. You would never get a situation like the one that I actually described in my first book, where you have a nobleman marrying a serving girl. That just wouldn't happen. So in order to get 7 degrees of separation, this is when you start to see younger children being married off to older people, men or women. This is where you start to see young kids from families coming together and being betrothed at a young age. And this is sort of where that stereotypical idea of the weird, loveless arranged marriage in medieval times comes from. So there was a lot more pomp and circumstance around a noble marriage, and it wasn't just because noble people wanted to show off how wealthy they were. There was another reason, and that reason was proof. It was a little harder to prove a marriage back then than it is now. We now sign a bunch of documents and have a bunch of legal hoops that we have to jump through. It wasn't really like that as much back then. And so you wanted to have a lot of witnesses. If you were married at the church or with a member of the church present, that was proof. And so when the time came and you really needed to prove that you had an alliance with another family, you had that proof. Children were betrothed. They couldn't necessarily be married to someone against their will. But let's just say they were strongly encouraged to get married to the person that their parents, probably their father, thought was the right partner for them or the right partner for their family. And this is where we see a lot more unhappy marriages. And because of those unhappy marriages, this is also where you see maybe a lot more infidelity, especially amongst noblemen who are married to a woman who bears his heirs and his children, but isn't really someone that he loves. If you were a woman, it was a lot less, there wasn't much you could do about it. You were just stuck. And that is what marriage looked like in the noble classes. Sounds like fun, doesn't it?